I don't know what it's like to buy a Tesla in other parts of the US, but here in Connecticut, where there is no dealership, the process is completely remote and for me, mostly sucks. It all starts with putting a non refundable deposit down via their website after you register, of course. Everything else after that happens via the Tesla app. And when I say everything, I do mean everything. Providing your identification, your insurance, and even making your down payment all go through the mobile system. For me, this is where the problems start. Now, I won't bore you with the details, but suffice it to say that the app based automobile purchasing process, as implemented by Tesla, is unreliable at best. And having literally no human being to talk to or help walk you through any problems that you might encounter can be quite troublesome. When you do get a hold of someone after an, on average, hour-long wait for me, they basically offer nothing more than the following advice. A, log out and log back into the app while keeping your fingers crossed. B, uninstall and reinstall and then log into the app while, well, keeping your fingers crossed. And C, wait a while, see what happens, and try again. Now, once you do make it through the frustrating process and select a delivery time, you basically are all set. You can literally walk up to the car, click on a button on the aforementioned app, and voila, welcome to your new Tesla. Rating the purchasing experience, all in all, I do support the idea of a hands-free approach to purchasing a vehicle, but I think it's important to also provide a measure of customer support for edge cases where things go haywire. At the pickup point, you'll get a pair of key cards used to unlock and start the car. To unlock the car, place either card on the side panel of either the driver or passenger side doors right underneath the camera and listen for the unlock sound and a gesture of some sort. Opening the door is a little bit weird. I'd love to tell you it's grown on me, but it really hasn't. Speaking of unconventional control mechanisms, you'll definitely want to acclimate yourself to the subtle quirks that the driving experience comes with. But before we begin, a brief walkthrough of the interior. With a 2023 Model 3 rear-wheel drive, you get a standard steering wheel with two stocks and two multi-directional dials attached. You also get a massive 15-inch central screen that serves as the vehicle's control center. As you may or may not know, there is no conventional dashboard as you might see in other cars, meaning one must continually look away from the road at this screen to get any information about the state of the car while driving. Underneath the control center, you'll find a space for placing mobile phones, which doubles as two wireless charging surfaces. And beneath that, an assembly with built-in storage space which delineates the driver from the passenger areas. In here, you'll find two USB Type-C ports for additional device charging. This divider also has two cup holders and an armrest area that can be opened to reveal additional storage and a DC adapter port. On the doors, you'll find a button for opening the door as well as buttons for winding the windows down. There's also a manual door opener above the window controls on both front doors that can be used to manually open the doors. The roof of the car is practically all glass except for a bar between the front and back seats. That bar, as well as the one separating the windshield from the glass roof, holds a set of small dome lights. The lights in front have the button for switching on the hazards between the two LED bulbs. That's about it for the interior. Pretty much all the other dials and switches you might be accustomed to from a conventional car have been consolidated into the control center screen. Sitting inside the car, it strikes me more as a device with wheels than a car that uses electricity instead of gasoline. If you're a car guy, it may take some time to adjust to the departure from normalcy. If you're a gadget guy, you'll be too distracted from the coolness of everything to notice how far removed from the conventional you really are. Right about now, you might be itching for me to take this for a spin. But before doing this, let's set up a profile for using the vehicle. Profiles let you modify the configuration of your driving experience without affecting other drivers of the vehicle. This is one area where applying software to the problem improves the overall experience. In conventional vehicles like the BMW X7, you get a limited number of driver profiles, primarily due to the fact that the profiles themselves are linked to hardware buttons. With the Tesla, you're free to set up as many of these as you need. And in air quotes, I'm going to say for now. Keep in mind that any configuration changes you make to the driver profile only last as long as the current drive by default. To make a change that persists beyond that, you must save the profile after each modification. If you neglect to do this, the car will revert back to the previous driver profile configuration or factory default if none has been set. Everything you need to set up your car mirrors and steering wheel can be found in the controls section of the control center screen. You get to that screen by clicking on the icon for a car at the bottom left corner of the screen and selecting the controls option from the subsequent menu. You should see halfway down the screen buttons for mirrors and steering. When you click on either, you can use the left multi-directional dial on the steering wheel to reposition the angle of either mirror or the position of the steering wheel. Since we're on the steering wheel, let's talk a little bit about the stalks and what they can do. With the right stalk, you have the gear controls. You push up to reverse and down to drive. The left stalk is the turn signal control. It also has windshield wiper controls, which can be engaged by pushing on the stalk. Pushing all the way on the stalk will spray the windshield with wiper fluid. Finally, the lights can be controlled with it. Specifically, it can be used to engage the high beams temporarily by pulling it towards the driver, or engage it permanently by pushing it out away from the driver. Heading back to the control center, you can also open the trunk and front as needed, as well as lock the car. Immediately next to the car icon is the interior temperature indicator. You can use the arrows to lower or increase the temperature, or click on it to get a full view of all the options it has. Apart from individualized vent controls, you can pretty much do everything you can with a regular system. Seat positioning, thankfully, has not been quote-unquote revolutionized in the Tesla, so adjusting them to your liking will be like what you do in any other car. Back on the control center, you'll find to the right of the temperature controls a set of pinned apps from the My Apps tray. You can open this tray to see the full list of apps the Tesla supports. This ranges from phone integration to audio via Bluetooth and the streaming app. Tesla also supports a full-fledged browser which can be used while driving. From the perspective of a software developer, this combined with access to the Tesla developer APIs can provide a powerful extension point to your device. I mean car. But we'll leave the hardcore techie stuff for another video. Finally, the rightmost control offers a way to control the audio volume for the car. In most cases, you can also do this with the left multi-directional dial in the steering wheel. Infuriatingly, Tesla does not support CarPlay or Android Auto, so if you've grown accustomed to live traffic information and tons of apps and value-added services offered to you for free, you'll be in for a rude awakening. The same live traffic information that is free on your mobile device will cost you a minimum of $99 a year to have integrated into your Tesla. Walled garden, anyone? The rest of the controls is a bunch of detailed configuration toggles that can be used to control a wide range of things in the Tesla, from how closely you follow behind another car in autopilot mode to how the car behaves when stopped. Remember that car icon we clicked to open up the full car controls? That's where most of these items are located. What follows is by no means an exhaustive view of all the settings located there, but gives an overview of a number of the important ones. For instance, in the control section, you can adjust your light settings, fold and unfold your mirrors, set child locks, window locks, and open the glove box. As stated, this is where you would set the angle and layout of your mirrors and steering wheel and set the degree of intermittency of the windshield wipers. At the bottom of this page, you'll also find controls for adjusting the brightness of the screen itself. The next section down, pedals and steering, has, amongst other things, the settings for adjusting the acceleration mode, steering mode, and stopping modes. Standard acceleration produces the now infamous neck snapping effect when you push down on the accelerator, while the steering mode gives you a feel of less resistance with the comfort setting and more handling and control with sport. In day-to-day driving conditions on local roads, comfort is fine. If you put on driving gloves before you get on the highway, you might find sport to be more appealing. Stopping mode offers the choice to have the car continue to move forward slowly, to roll freely, or to hold when the accelerator is released. In situations where you're stopped on a hill, setting it to roll will make the car roll backwards under its own weight, like a standard gear system. Charging, the next section down, is where you go to open the charging port for the vehicle. It's also where you can set charging limits and see any costs associated with this activity. Below that, the Autopilot section is where you set the various parameters associated with the advanced cruise control / self-driving capability. The features available to you here will depend on the level of self-driving capabilities you've purchased from Tesla as add-on services, the hardware available on the vehicle, and the region the vehicle is localized to. The default traffic-aware cruise control gives you cruise control with the ability to slow down and speed up based on the vehicle in front of the Tesla. In many car models, this is simply referred to as adaptive cruise control. The next level up, auto steer, is essentially the same as the former with the added ability to use the turn signals to switch lanes. Again, many cars offer this base functionality. For an additional $6,000, you can get the enhanced autopilot, which adds the ability to navigate on autopilot, the ability to automatically park, and the ability to summon the vehicle. It isn't until you purchase and engage the full self-driving at the steep cost of $12,000 that you get the full self-driving package, which includes recognizing traffic lights. The locks section is where you can manage the quote unquote keys for your car. This is also another location where you can set the door and window locks. In here, you can set the Tesla up to notify you if the door or windows are left open for any reason. Like locks, many of the items in the next section, lights, can be triggered via the left stalk controls. You can additionally enable the auto high beams feature, which will turn on the high beams as needed to maintain visibility. The next section down is display, and from here you can set brightness and themes for the display. You can also set the localization settings like miles versus kilometers, distance versus percentage for the energy display, Celsius versus Fahrenheit, or using a bar versus PSI for tire pressure. And finally, you can set the global text size for the display. You can also set what happens, if anything, when the left multi-directional dial is long pressed. Alternatively, to get a pop-up that allows you to choose each time the dial is long pressed, you can select Ask Each Time. Trips, the next section down, is basically a different take on the odometer. Navigation, down from there, allows you to manage various settings for the onboard navigation. Next, safety gives you a place to enable various safety settings available on the Tesla. You can enable Sentry mode from there, enable the ability to view the Tesla's cameras from the mobile app, determine when the dash cam should be engaged, and set a pin for the glove box and a pin before anybody can drive the car. You can also set a max speed limit for the Tesla. From the service menu, you can do a ton of things related to the car. And we won't go into all the details because there's just so many things here that you can configure. This section, for the most part, comes in handy if you need to adjust the Tesla's headlights, if you would like to get a preview of what the cameras are seeing, and more generally, if you need to do any calibration on the tires or if you, for whatever reason, need to get towed. For instance, if you need to change the wipers, click on the wiper service button and the wipers slide up, allowing you to do the needful. The software section is where you can get key information about your car and the software running on it. Clicking on the data sharing button from here, you can select how much of your personal data you'd like to be shared with the Tesla Corporation. In the final section, upgrades, you can quickly and easily subscribe to any software capabilities that the Tesla Corporation provides as an additional feature. You can also do this from the Tesla mobile app. With all that said, let's get to the drive. So, what does all this mean for you as a consumer? Well, 10 years ago, when I bought a laptop, it was not uncommon to go over to the local micro center or even Best Buy and get some additional memory to put into it. Maybe upgrade the hard drive itself, and certainly purchase and or swap out batteries as I saw fit. For the longest time, at the very least, the battery part was true about cell phones. I say this to say that when I look at the interior of this vehicle, what comes immediately to mind is that it leans more towards the modern day cell phone than the laptops of yore, and that scares me and should absolutely scare you. I look at how voraciously the Apple apologists ate up every bit of tech Apple delivered, regardless of how contrary to their own interests the new shiny things were. And I see the same kind of frenzied, irresponsible demand for a vehicle and modus operandi that undermines at every turn the long term interests of the very users that use it. I, for one, will not be digging my own grave anytime soon as it relates to vehicles, no matter how many sensors and servers and radically designed integrations come with it. As other car manufacturers sit back and watch as Tesla stock triples, I hope we still have numbers to send this glaring message with our wallets. The idea of total ownership is not one that should be taken lightly. Now, I'm not saying there's something wrong with the kind of technology that allows your car to sense your presence and open up for you as you approach it, but is that innovation or is that just innovative? Really, all I'm saying is once upon a time, I used to be able to walk into my local AutoZone and buy a $20 bulb and using the manual included with my vehicle, fix my headlights. Last I checked, that enterprise on a Tesla can cost up to $185 US. And my question is, what are we getting for this? What's the actual value to us, the consumer, of this technology? Is it the time and effort savings of not having to use my arms and fingers and brains to flick the steering wheel stalk forward? Is an extra 6 miles added to the distance I can travel really worth not having a spare tire or donut or anything in my vehicle? That seems like a steep price to pay for infinitesimal directional progress. All in all, the Tesla Model 3 is a fine vehicle with all sorts of novelty capabilities, but every time I get into one, I can't help but think of it as a moving e commerce site where everything I want to do can potentially cost me money. And while I agree that there is value in lowering the overall cost on the environment and my bank account, it's hard to sanction the costly bolt on capabilities that can be monetized at any point in time at our expense. Much of the cool tricks it provides are essentially useless, or more accurately, are more effectively and efficiently performed by the driver with very little, if any, downside. When compared to my BMW X7, self-driving really does nothing given that you still have to hold on to the steering wheel. The only real benefit in terms of autonomous driving is a traffic light detection, and that's hidden behind a $12,000 price tag or whopping $299 a month. Yikes. There are cars that can be financed for that monthly payment. On top of this, the driving experience is really nowhere close to the smoothness of a car in its price class, and the utter lack of repairability is borderline criminal. I honestly don't get why my doors have to open themselves just because I want to use electric instead of gas. I would love for these manufacturers to just give us what we need without selling us on these costly and frivolous smoke and mirror features. If cost savings is the concern, I would look very hard at affordable EVs like those provided by Hyundai and Toyota. At the very least, you can benefit from the fit and finish and less bumpy driving experiences that they provide. But these are just my thoughts. Thanks for watching. We'll be doing a lot more with the Tesla in terms of programming it and adding capabilities that are presently not available in their app store. It won't be long until you won't be able to purchase a new car that isn't electric. These car companies seem to be making a major push towards subscription-based revenue, and it's up to all of us to make a stand for repairability. I implore you to reach out to your elected leaders and let them know that you won't stand for this. Millions of Americans make their living by working on vehicles. This is one thing that Wall Street does not need to own. Our leaders need to know that everyone cannot afford to go to the dealer to get their car fixed, and everyone cannot afford to even go to a mechanic to change a light bulb or have an oil change or change a tire or change their brakes and whatnot. If companies like Tesla want to sell these componentized solutions that can be broken apart, then they need to offer free training to mechanics to bring them up to speed. It's up to us.